Good morning. Our hand today is going to be King Jack. This ain't happened last night. Uh, just made it to our table. Couple, I don't know, maybe a round in or so, and I get King Jack off in the big blind, and the button raises the three big blinds, gets back to me, and I have a decision. So, Villain's actually a decent player, or at least his stats suggest he's a decent player. Plays 21-13, might be a little passive, and it does, and that's reflective in his stats, pre-flop stats. Tends to call. Doesn't necessarily limp first in. If he plays, he comes in for a raise. So I've got raise first in stat on the button is 47%. That's probably pretty accurate. So if we look at a 47% stat, or 47% range, it's looking something like this, and I think I'm just going to go with it. He does have position on the hand. I think he's going to raise something like that. So then it's on me. Now, if I go big blind versus button range, I've got a three better call range where the King Jack falls into it. You could see that three betting, we're going to be a little bit more liberal in our three betting. I mean, 18% three betting range. Actually, no. 11% three betting range. It's that three better call. It's going to be 18. So with our decision, it's probably going to increase our overall three betting in this spot to more than probably like 13, 14%, maybe even 15%. So what are we doing with King Jack? I think this is kind of like one of those threshold hands. At the time, I thought about it and I said, well, I could three bet here, go for just try to pick it up. But I felt like with the King Jack, we're going to be ahead of a big part of his range here. And I think that if the flop comes down somewhat favorable, like a single king or a single jack, I do think he's going to be c-betting because that board should hit him more than it hits me. So I kind of went in thinking I'm just going to call here. And if I catch top pair, check call and let him bet. I think he slows down on the turn a little bit. If he's in position, he'll bet, and then he'll slow down on the turn. So kind of the turn gives us some idea of where we're at. Definitely, I think we could three bet this as well. So we see a board of King 9-8, all hearts. Not too worried about it. It's kind of hard to hit flush draw. You can see on his range, his flush is on. It's like 4.5% chance that he actually flopped it. So not worried about it. I'm going to execute my plan. I'm just going to check. I do expect him to be c-betting here, and that's why I checked. So my plan is to check call. I don't think our hand is strong enough for a raise. If we think about what kind of hands we're going to be raising with, I think we're going for raising with our flush, probably with two pair plus. We're going to be nut flush draw. Let's get that. Not sure if it'll be the second nut. Ooh. No, I take that back. With our check raise, I don't think we're going to have a huge number of hands to kind of balance, a huge number of draws to balance it. So I think we're going to be a little bit unbalanced toward all value. And, with our two pair and set. Yeah, okay, so that gets us a little bit better if we have the nut flush and the second nut flush as our check raise. Check raising range, that might work with our range. Actually think we're going to probably be check calling a lot more here based on our distribution. So kind of default is like check raise with our top hands and then real solid draws, and this is like, yeah, you've got the nut flush draw, that makes sense to put it in. But on the monotone board, maybe check raise isn't that great. Because if we think about it, what kind of hands will be calling us? Well, if we've got the second nut flush, I think if we check raise, I think only the nut flush might call us. So with that logic, I'm going to say probably just check calling here. Yeah, probably bottom pair. That's going to be speculative. That might be it. I think that's what we're going to be calling with planning a check call. What about the villain? What do I expect him to see bet with? I expect him to see bet with a lot. Like all of his pairs, all his flush draws, his straights, probably his gut shots too. Maybe even some of our no-made hands, which would be like the ace queens, ace jack, possibly ace 10 as well. I think queen jacks are like in your gut shot, so I think he's going to be c-betting 80%. If he doesn't, then either he's got one of these hands that just doesn't connect at all, or he's a player that gets scared too easy. And I don't think that's the player. I think he's going to c-bet here. So he did c-bet, and I executed the call. Just kind of what I expected. Now the turn comes out as a 5 of clubs, and at this point, I think if he doesn't have a hand, if he doesn't have any part of the board, I think he's just going to check behind. So I think I think these weak pairs, third pair, middle pair, probably this tens, jacks, queens, those are going to probably check. I think top pair hands, probably king with the weaker kickers are going to be checking. I think with this guy, the flush draw will probably be betting. Let's see what kind of notes we have on here. Play to turn, draw aggressively. Yeah, so I think with our flush draw, probably the nut and the second nut, he's going to continue betting. Open ender could probably bet. And then if he connects, maybe check down. I'm going to take that out. So I think if he bets, he's playing something like this, which means our calling range is going to have to be somewhat stronger. So are we going to be check raising here? I think we could. I think if we check raise, we're going to get him to probably fold at least the top pair. I think this player could probably fold 2 pair and could maybe. I think a set's going to be wishful thinking until the river. But I think we could probably get him to fold a couple of these hands. I don't think he's folding the nut flush, but it's a possibility that he folds the second nut. So I'm not sure if a check raise would be good here. I mean, we definitely have to have a check raise range somewhere. We have to have some hand. Maybe this isn't the board to have it, but maybe now this is our check raise with the flush and with the nut flush draw. But if we have the nut, if we've got the flush, I think we're going to be less likely to check raise with the nut flush. So we want him to be able to have that ace of hearts. So let's do that. Let's take the nut flush out. I think second nut, third nut's probably just a call. I think we're probably just gonna open ender. It could hurt us. So I'm gonna go back here. He did bet somewhat large 2/3, so I think that's probably pretty standard. So I checked and he bet 10, so now he kind of went to his 2/3 pot. Still a little large. I think he's sized down a little bit here. When I saw it sized down, I think he's probably not going to have like a nut flush draw. I kind of think with his bet sizing, he probably doesn't have the flush, or at least he doesn't have the nut flush here. So we're going to take that out. Might have some of these other stronger hands, straights, sets, two pairs. He's betting those because I would probably call with ace of hearts. So he's going for value. So then it's on me. I called with top pair. And I really don't think I should have. I think he's representing some pretty strong hands. Yeah, we could get bluffed. I think this was a time where we would know if our king jack is good. Definitely, I think king 7, king 6, king 4, king 3. It seems a little weak, but with him betting and with how he plays, we could always call it with the top pair, and then if he bets again on the river, just fold. And that's what I did, actually. I'm gonna say I think he's aggressive enough to where he can bet his draws and continue to bet his draws like this aggressively, that I thought, okay, I've got top pair hand. It's less likely he has top pair. Like I could see him doing this with maybe even like 8-7. So now picked up another gut shot, or 9-10, 9 jack, maybe with the jack of hearts. So what did I do? I called. And I think we worked it out. I don't think I'm calling. I don't think we can call with the open ender. I think we call second, third nuts, and if we hit the hearts, we hit the hearts. That's okay. So I think we're check calling 45%, kind of avoiding folding and just giving up right away. 7 of diamonds hits, and at this point, I think I'm just going to continue executing. I think we can lead here. We can donk, because I think now villain has hands where he'll probably just check behind. So like a straight sets, two pair, over pair, top pair. I think he's just going to check those behind, but I think he's going to call with probably a straight and maybe even a set. I mean, it's entirely possible two pair too. So I think with that, I think we're going to lead with our flush, and possibly lead with our straight. Obviously, we're going to have like some busted draw here, maybe, that we could lead as a bluff. But I think villain's range is just so value heavy that we're getting called a lot. So if we assume he's going to call with two pair plus, he's calling 40%, folding 60%. So yeah, maybe our nothing, our queen jack, queen 10 hand we use as a bluff. I don't think I'm going to turn top pair into a bluff. I think we're going to keep that a little bit as value. I think we go value with our flush and our straight, and our sets two pair. I think we check behind, so we're gonna have something like that. We did check, villain checked behind, and as I said, I think he's checking. He's going to bet his flush, probably checking his straight sets, two pair, over pair, top pair. He might actually go for a bluff with maybe like a busted ace, busted flush. So what does he show? King, queen. So we're out kicked. Is that in his range? Yeah, we have that as a top pair hand in his range. I think that's a little unfortunate. I thought, could I have played this differently? I could have. I could have 3-bet. I think he's calling. I think we'd lose a little bit more, because I think we'd check call on the flop and then probably check call turn again. But I think overall we kind of had that plan where I think this is an aggressive player. I think we could check call top pair, third kicker, and he had second kicker. We're out kicked. All right, hopefully you enjoy this. If you do, look tomorrow for another.